Okay, good morning, folks. This is Bill from Little White Dory with my kombucha experiment. I have to admit, when I was in science in high school, I was distracted. This wasn't something that got me too excited, but this is about as interesting an experiment as I think I ever did in science during high school. So I have two batches of kombucha here that the story is I started my mother on May 24th, 2018. This is Mother Lucy. And so I put a batch of sweet tea together, added probably a half a bottle of store-bought plain original blend, no extras kombucha into this and let it sit until July 1st. On July 1st, I took the mothers that were created and transplanted them into new batches of sweet tea. And that's this liquid here. I got rid of, with the exception of like a cup of each of the liquids from the other one, I got rid of those two batches, and this now is what I would say is my first batch of kombucha from my homegrown scobies. So the scobies, and you can see this one really, really well, are this thin layer of, I say it's kind of leathery like, but if you can imagine leather being saturated, if you've ever played with calamari and you played with the squid, it's a little similar to that, maybe not quite as rigid. And in this case, I've got this couple of layers, and it's really creepy looking. It looks like this monster from another planet. You can see it starts down here and comes up. That was the original, my original grown SCOBY, which then gave birth, I suppose you would say, to the one that's floating on the top. And that's typical. They'll turn into the shape of the container that they're in on the surface. Sometimes they fall. You can see this one's starting to fall. I carried it upstairs, so I probably exaggerated a little bit. But it's a funky kind of concept. So I'm going to now take these scobies out of this bottle and put them into a quart size for now, with about a cup of reserve fluids from here. So I'm basically going to look to, temporarily at least, put my scobies in something that I can hold them, and while I clean these out, start them over, I will add and make another batch of sweet tea, and then along with the liquids that I take with this, put it into that batch and start two new batches. I have one problem in that I only have a few bottles, I'll call them 6 bottles of kombucha size bottles, and I've got a lot more liquid. Fire truck just went by. It goes by almost every day because there's almost an accident every day on the highway down the road, and my tax dollars get to pay to clean up the roads every day. We should just have the check that or rather a bill that we send to the state. Okay, so that was the first one I showed you was Mo, or Mother Mo. Mo was the name of a cat that I had for 18 years as a pet. Lucy was a pet that my wife had, a Dalmatian that was deaf, and she had her for quite a long time as well. So this one, as I come down here and hopefully this focuses in, you can see is hanging as well. Doesn't seem to want to turn as easily. There we go. It's definitely some funky looking stuff, but the colors of it and the smell seem fine. I do see the mother on the mother on the bottom. I think that's what's called the mother, and this is the SCOBY. It's, you can see, kind of a funky looking, liquidy, monsterish looking creature thing. Okay, so I need to go do 2 hands and figure out what I'm going to do here, but that's the process. 2 more batches to start, and maybe I'll film a little more in between. Bye-bye. Okay, here we are once again at an intermediate stage. So I've removed the scobies and put them into the 2 quart-sized jars. So the gallons are now the kombucha that I'm going to work with bottling and flavoring and etc. so forth. One of these 2 is a green tea, one of them is a black tea. I started in 2 containers like this, a gallon and a half gallon. I started them both with black tea, which was what this is. So my scobies started in black tea. I then, for the second brew, made one green and one black. I don't necessarily remember which one is which. Now, maybe some people can tell me based on the color. I'd say this is slightly darker and this one's slightly lighter. So green I'm going to go with on the lighter, black on the darker. Now, I put a gallon-sized SCOBY into a gallon-sized bottle of one of the two, and I put a half-gallon-sized SCOBY into the other. So this one, is the Lucy one, has the SCOBY that was actually a black tea SCOBY, then put into, I guess, green tea. And then I come up and look down. You should be able to tell that the difference. This one is lighter than this one. The darker one is the original, smaller diameter SCOBY. This is the new second or daughter of the mother, or the SCOBY baby. How about that's Lucy 2? Lucy 2 is the lighter one, I believe, brewed in the green tea. Now, these I have in 2 cups of reserved liquid that I'm going to just keep there, at the very least, until I'm done with what I'm doing today, which I don't know what I'm doing. So that one, and then the SCOBY Mo, and SCOBY Mo 2 are in here. These are both the size of a gallon, so they form the same. They're folded almost into like a quarter. Sorry, the emergency folks are having a lot of fun today. We have lots and lots of volunteer fire activity down my street every day. So these two mothers, which are roughly the same size and same shape, SCOBYs, came from both a gallon jug to start, and then the second brew was also a gallon. So these two were very uniformly thin layers, the second one even more so. Each of the seconds were much more uniform than the original. Now, as I say that, I'm looking and saying, well, this one does look a little lighter than that one. I don't know. I'm hoping that it is the same, that's just one is submerged a little more. So over here now, I have 2 half-gallons of black sweet tea. I used 16 bags into roughly a half-gallon of water and added 2 cups of sugar. So I made myself a concentrate that I split. So I have now effectively 3/4 of a cup into each of these half gallons. All right, so that's a quart of liquid roughly. These are half-gallon bottles, so there's a quart of liquid and 3/4 of a cup of sugar into that. That will go back into these containers with their respective SCOBYs and start fermenting again. I'm not going to essentially clean out these two. I'm just going to now add to it. So those two have to come up to room temperature. They're still quite warm. And then I have just filtered water that I'll add to the gallons after everything's come to the same temperature. The liquid that is in these two is what I'm going to be bottling now. I'm probably going to use all of the liquid out of one, and then the other one I'm probably going to leave as is and throw it in the refrigerator and see if I can get that just to be a kind of funky gallon-sized reservoir of kombucha to drink. No flavoring, just kombucha. And I guess no second fermentation. It's just this first fermentation. We'll see. I'll let you know how I make out. Okay, this is I'll call it an intermediary step again, in that I've taken my original kombucha. This is one of them. I did the other. This is the 10-day-old kombucha. That's my new fresh sweet tea. That the SCOBY that I took out of here, which is now parked over there for a moment, will go into this jar, back into this jar with that, cool down, I add water, fill it up to a decent level, probably going to go up to about this height next time. And I will take this liquid before I can do any of that and distribute it into these 3 bottles. What's left over will go into this half-gallon jar. And I'm going to leave plain. These 3 I'm going to put different things in. So this one is now the equivalent of that much concentrated sugar sweet tea into here, with the leftover SCOBYs and any kind of goobers that were still floating in there, they're staying in here. I didn't essentially clean the jar out. I left some of the mother on the bottom. I didn't clean the jar. I just added the new sweet tea, and I will be adding the SCOBY back into that, and that will start my next batch. These 3 bottles have, in this one, mango and ginger. This one has mango. This one has mango and grape juice. This one, I think I'm going to cut up more ginger and just put ginger in it. That's what's left over from the gallon. So I'll have these 4 from one batch, and I'll hopefully have these 3 and a half-gallon bottle for the second. Okay, next. Okay, next step. So I think I covered this before, but this bottle is grape juice and mango, mango ginger. The next batch that'll start that I'm going to add my SCOBY to, just have to get it to temperature. It was 85, so it's actually right there pretty much now. I'm going to go a little closer to room temperature. And this is the original, same as this. I should probably have it in this fashion. These are from one batch. This has just ginger, kind of a lot of it, or more of it. So mango ginger, mango grape, just ginger. Next batch. The grape juice I used is this, the Welch's, I guess, no, Ocean Spray. I did see where it says pasteurized, and it does say, you know, all from concentrate, but that was what I found is 100% juice. In these 3 bottles, I have the other, right, I have this, I said I'm not emptying it completely. I'm going to take the new batch of black tea, sweet tea, that's been cooling off, add it in. I'm going to continue to let this go to room temperature, the same as this one, just a little bit more. I threw 2 ice cubes in, or ice balls, to bring the temperature down a little quicker. I'm going to add more water to that. So, in that batch, the second batch, I did 1/4 cup of grape juice, the rest of the kombucha, half a cup of grape juice and kombucha, 1/4 cup of grape juice and ginger. And the remaining balance over here, I'm going to leave just plain. So these 4 are now the other batch. One batch or the other was with green tea, one was with black tea. I think these are the ones with the green tea. I think these will be the ones that had black tea. And it was a black tea SCOBY and a black tea second batch versus a black tea SCOBY into green tea for the second batch. Okay, folks. Next step is to let this cool down, put my mother's from over there back in over here, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so we're starting off in the fridge. My wife, it's funny, she has these Harpoon apples, hard ciders. I'm going to see if I can match a hard cider that she'll drink, but this is now the one that I'm going to chill. It's just kombucha from the first batch. I'm not going to let it sit out. I'm going to leave it at just this temperature, which maybe makes it hard cider. I'm not sure. But I just decided I would take this much, cool it, taste it, see what I think of it. Now the rest, we have to go down to the dungeon. And down here, well, first of all, I live on Long Island in New York. We're a big sandbar. This crack in the foundation, for the first time, I had water come up through there. We have a very low water level, hence it's very damp down here. But I don't have generally much extra light, no direct light. But over here I have set up, and I hope the lighting is okay, my fermentation station. How's that? So here's my bottles. Let me see. I'm going to stop and then put the light on. Yeah, so this hopefully will be a little better. We've got some new covers. That's Lucy, Mo, and I don't have my pen, but what I'm marking is black, green, black. I don't have the G. And this one is going to be black, black, black with PCS, pure cane sugar, and the B up here, let's see, B here is the start, so they were both blacks to start. Now, right next to it over here, I don't know that it matters because this has got the airlock, is a batch of, I said before hard cider. I meant to say kombucha, but without the second fermentation. I was thinking the term I used was a hard cider. This is my apple cider vinegar that has gone past hard cider and turned to vinegar. And I do give it a swirl periodically. I did it this morning, and you can see that there's all kinds of floaties in there. But that's my homemade apple cider vinegar that it smells like apple cider vinegar. I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm going to suspect that it will and continue to taste like apple cider vinegar, and I'll eventually give it to my chickens. I started some sauerkraut. When I hold it here, you can look up. There's nothing but water or brine. Those glass blocks are holding the cabbage down really well. The only thing I've done is that I've been told it does build a little bit of carbonation. So I just give it taps like that, and you see the bubbles coming up to the top. At least I hope you did. There were some. I'll do it one more time. I think you get the point. So I'm letting the bubbles out, and that's my next batch of sauerkraut. Down here we have our little thermometer, temperature and humidity. It's saying we have a 50% humidity, which has been ranging in the past 24 hours between 47 and 53. And the temperature right now is 75, and it's a pretty steady 75. It's down in the basement. It tends to hold its temperatures cooler for longer. Over here I have the batch from the Mo batch. So this is the green tea, and now this has just got a lot of the ginger in it. I think I said that I'm going to leave this one to go, but just with just with ginger in it. This is a wireless transmitter for a weather temperature station that I have upstairs. So I don't come down here to check it. I have a temperature gauge upstairs. But basically it's, a basement. The windows are at about ground level, so I'm not a full basement technically. I don't know that you could get it here on Long Island, or in this section anyway. But just a little bit of a view down in the basement. I'm burping because I had some seltzer. I'm sorry. Okay, bye-bye. The following is a disclaimer. This is Bill from Little White Dory. Apparently, I go back and forth between the use of the word mother and SCOBY and think that they're interchangeable. Sometimes it may be misleading how I've used them, so I will say to you what my father used to say to me. Know what I mean, not what I say. Okay, bye-bye. Any questions, leave them in the comments.